Hey y'all, thanks for tuning into another video. So this is how to break free from shame and rebuild those feelings of self-worth. And so earlier this week in the pod, I talked about the shame spiral because that is something that I'm noticing that a lot of us have experienced, have carried into our adulthood from our childhood. And that's really hard to overcome because even if we're not doing it out in the open, if we're holding on to it internally, we're still narrating those experiences to ourselves. We're still narrating those same beliefs to ourselves, and that perpetuates a feeling that something is wrong with us. And when we feel like something is wrong with us, we move in the world as if something is wrong with us. And when we do that, our relationships are affected, the way we walk into the world is affected, and certainly our self-worth is affected. And so how do we break free from believing that we are broken because of the mistakes that we have made in our lives or in our past? And how do we move forward capable of our mistakes being opportunity for growth instead of another batch to add to our bucket of shame? So the first thing is we have to be able to identify those shame-based thoughts. So when it shows up, are you able to recognize it? If you have feelings that you're behind, or feelings that you don't measure up, or feelings that you're not good enough, or you're not as good as the other people around you, those are comparison thoughts that create shame. They say, I should be at this other space in my life. Here's all the things that I'm keeping record of that I've done that have wasted time. And so therefore I believe that there's something wrong with me because I'm at this space in my life as opposed to the space where I feel like everyone else who is friends with me or is in my circle is. And that creates the shame-based spiral. So you can identify that those thoughts are shame-based. If you're somebody who feels like you're not enough and you're consistently telling yourself you didn't do enough, you could have done more, that there's something wrong with you, you're not a good mom, you're not a good spouse, you're not a good friend, all of those are shame-based thoughts. Anything that questions and speaks against your identity has developed into a shame-based thought. So when you start to say, I am, insert critique here, you have already developed shame around that thing. So once you know that, then you will start to recognize your shame-based thoughts, because you can't counteract them if you don't recognize when you're doing them. So sometimes you might catch yourself saying, oh my gosh, you're so stupid, right? Because you made a mistake. Instead of saying, that was really silly, I knew better than to do that, you say, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. And that is you claiming something about yourself based on a mistake that you made. And those are shame-based thoughts. Once you recognize those shame-based thoughts, you have to be able to separate your identity from your behavior. So that's when you start to question are you, insert insult here, or was your behavior, mistake, thing that you did right here, something that could be described that way? Doesn't mean that you are that. It just means that the behavior was that. So if maybe something happens and you're in a situation where you ended up being really gullible, does that mean that you're stupid? No. So when you hear yourself saying, I'm stupid, you can stop that and say, well, I'm not stupid, but this was a really gullible thing to do. If you yell at your children when you've told yourself that you didn't want to be that kind of parent, you don't have to say, I'm an awful parent, even though you might feel it, but we're going to separate that identity response into a behavior. It really wasn't something that I wanted to do, to yell at my kids. That was a mistake. I can go apologize for that behavior. That doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person or a horrible parent or a horrible insert whatever critique you have here. Then you have to practice self-compassion. The easiest way to practice self-compassion when you don't have self-compassion is to activate your compassion. So what you would have said or done if someone else brought that story to you is what you're going to say or do when it happens to you. So respond to yourself the way that you would respond to your closest friend. Respond to yourself the way that you would respond to your sibling or your children or somebody that you care deeply about. Respond to yourself the way that you believe God would respond to you when he hears that you've done something that maybe he didn't want you to do or is sinful in nature. The gentleness that you meet yourself with there will help you to get over that hurdle much quicker rather than carrying the identity of something being wrong with you. And when you can practice that self-compassion, eventually you'll be able to stop saying, what would I say to a friend? Or what would God say to me? And you'll start being able to just give yourself compassion freely, the same way that you do all of the people around you. And then connect yourself with safe and trusted people, because when you connect yourself with safe and trusted people and you go into the shame spiral, they will speak life and truth into you. When you say, I'm just a mess up, or I'm a failure, or I can't get it right, they'll explain to you all the times where you have. That's not true because you got it right here, and I know that you did this, and here are all these examples of things where you've done it right. It helps to have those people when you can't get out of the shame spiral to speak life and truth into you, so that eventually you'll start to speak that same life and truth into yourself. Giving examples of times where you weren't making those mistakes will help you to not believe the self-identifying phrases that you've given to yourself. I am this thing will turn into, okay, I've made this mistake now, but in the past I've done something different. So I'm not that, I just made a mistake. And the shame spiral ends with these behaviors, because you can healthily go into a space where you make a mistake, and instead of thinking, what is wrong with me, you will start to ask the question, what is God teaching me here? And what does he want to grow in me? What does he want me to take into my next season? So if this is you, I hope this video helps. If you need some extra help, reach out to me, DM me so that I can help walk you through it. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel so that you can get more content, and go follow me on all social media pages so you can get the content there as well. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.